Hey everyone, welcome to another video. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be taking a look at our 2024 Florida Gators football team and basically trying to see if it's possible for them to be able to clinch a bowl berth this season. We know they have the most difficult college football schedule of the entire 2024 season. They actually have the most difficult football schedule I've ever seen in my life. But we're going to go game by game and try to see where they could possibly get some wins to be able to clinch a bowl game this season. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, any opinions, drop them below and I will respond. So Vegas, when they look at our 2024 Florida Gators football schedule, they have UF coming in at 5.5 wins. So kind of borderline of them potentially being able to clinch a bowl berth. We know last season they went 5-7, did not get a bowl game. They barely made it the year before, got a bowl game, got curb stomped in the bowl. Billy Napier has to show some improvement this year. It's not optional. His seat is on fire, scorching flames. It's burning hot. He's 11-14 in 2 years at UF. That's not good enough for the Florida Gators. Florida is a top 10 college football program, a premier program. They have recruiting. They have money. They have brand recognition. You have to do better than that. Even though last year they had the most difficult schedule. Even though this season they have the most difficult schedule ever. Billy needs to get a bowl game. If he doesn't, he's going to be fired. If he gets 5 wins this year, he's going to be fired. If he goes 6-6, I think it'll probably save his job because he's 3 years in, but he could potentially get fired. If he goes 8-4 with this schedule, this man has done an amazing job. That's how difficult the schedule is. They play 8 or 9 ranked teams this season out of 12 games. It's just abysmal. It would be hard for anyone to have to play, but there is things to be excited about. Quarterback Graham Mertz is coming back, 20 touchdowns last year, 3 picks, very efficient quarterback, 73% completion percentage. He did really well since transferring over from Wisconsin. The running back NTN, he did transfer to Georgia. That is a big loss. You have the wide receiver Pearsall. He is off to the NFL first-round pick. That's a big loss. But they do return weapons. You have the running back Montrell Johnson. You have the wide receiver Eugene Wilson. Keep your eye on Wilson. This guy's a beast. He's a playmaker in space. He's going to be a difference maker. You have Dyke transferring in. You have Badger, Jackson, Boardingham, Gene. Mainly UF. So they're going to have the weapons there. There's going to be no shortage of weapons. It's just going to come down to, is the offensive line going to play better? They were banged up last season. They had some injuries. There were holes. Will the defense play better? The defense was getting beat up every single Saturday, second half of the season. They have to perform better, but the offensive line will be healthier. So that is promising. On the defensive side, there's been a lot of coaching changes, especially on the line. So how quickly are we going to be able to see those results? You'll see Collins, Searcy, Costello, Moore, Marshall Jr., James, Boone, Howard. There's a lot of pieces there. There's a lot of names. There's no doubt that unit will be better. Florida lost like 5 or 6 one-possession games last season. So if the defense is just a little better, that could potentially make a massive difference in getting to a bowl game. When you look at this schedule, you're kicking things off with Miami Saturday, August 31st. So your out-of-conference game right off the bat is a ranked, probably top 15 Miami team with Cam Ward, with Damian Martinez. This team's going to be loaded, a top 10 overall roster. But Florida, they have a top 20 roster. So there's not a big talent gap there. But Miami does have some really good playmakers. They're bringing in probably what is going to be a top 20 offense, as well as a top 30 defense. You have Miami, you have Samford, you have the Aggies, Mississippi State. You have UCF, another tough out-of-conference game. They could potentially be ranked. You have Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State out-of-conference. So 3 of your out-of-conference games are in-state rivals that may all be ranked. Miami, UCF, and the Seminoles. That's rough. You could go 0-3 and drop all those games in your state, which would get Billy Napier fired. But if that happens, that would be really bad. That better not happen. When I did my Florida predictions video, if you want to go watch that, you can watch that in my videos. I had Florida finishing 5-7. I had them not getting a bowl game. I had them losing to Miami. I had them beating Samford, beating the Aggies, beating Mississippi State, beating UCF, losing to Tennessee, beating Kentucky, losing to Georgia, losing to Texas, losing to LSU, losing to Ole Miss, losing to Florida State. That last 6-game schedule is a gauntlet. That's the most difficult straight 6 games I've ever seen in my life. If they can just get one of those, that's a difference maker. But you can imagine how beat up and injured they'll be once you get into the second half with that gauntlet they have to run through. So you have to win the given games to get a bowl game. You have to obviously beat Samford. You have to steal one from the Aggies. They have a new coach. You got to be able to beat them with them coming to Gainesville. You got to beat Mississippi State with Jeff Lebby. That's 3 wins. UCF, you have to beat one of the 3 in-state rivals. You can't go 0-3 in Florida. The easiest one to beat will be UCF. They're not easy. They have Gus Malzahn. They have KJ Jefferson. They have a top 10 overall running back with 1,500 yards last season. So they could technically win if this turns into a shootout. But you got to get one stop. You got to beat them. That's 4 wins right there. And then you got to beat Kentucky. Kentucky, obviously, they beat you last season. They're going to have a better quarterback this year. But you got to steal that one versus Kentucky. That's 5 wins right there. So where are you going to get the 6th win? Is it going to be versus Tennessee? Possibly. But you got Nico. You got Squirrel White. You got a lot of weapons there. A top 30 defense. A top 20 offense. It's going to be difficult. And you're at Tennessee, which is going to be difficult. Georgia, I don't see it happening. Texas, I don't see it happening. LSU, there's the possibility there. Jayden Daniels is gone. You have Nussmeier, but they did lose Neighbors. They had 2 first-round wide receivers. Defense, very questionable. So if it turns into a shootout, yeah, you can beat LSU. That can happen, but I just don't see it. You have Ole Miss. I don't see that happening. These teams rarely play, but I don't see that happening. Florida State, obviously, last season, some people say the game was close. Yeah, but Florida State was down to their 3rd-string quarterback. So I don't put much stock into that. But Florida State's team is going to be completely different this year. They have DJU. They have an entirely new defense, an entirely new offense. So if Florida State doesn't kick it off like a lot of people think they will, maybe that's a game that you can steal. But as of right now, if I'm putting money on it, if Florida's 5-6, they might win that game because that's the 12th game. They need to win it to get a bowl game. They're going to play really hard. They might finish 6-6. If they're 3-8 going into that game, Billy Napier's been fired. They have an interim coach, and they're reeling at that point, so I don't see it happening. But I don't see them beating Florida State this year, but it's definitely probable. So that's a possibility. So I think you got to steal the Miami game. You have to beat Miami at home to solidify yourself with a bowl. So much hinges on game 1. If UF starts game 1 off with a win, I think they're setting themselves up for success this season. Billy Napier can kind of exhale and they can start cruising. If they lose that game, the attention and spotlight's going to be on them and on Billy. And now they're going to be feeling nervous that they need to win every game or someone's getting fired. And that's a lot of pressure for a coaching staff as well as the team to have to play with. I say game 1 versus Miami, that's the hinge game. If they lose it, I don't think they get a bowl this year. If they win it, they're getting a bowl this season. They might even get to 7 wins. So Billy Napier keeps his job. And next year, the schedule's going to be easier. DJ Lagway's there. Things can start cruising in the next season. Billy Napier will be fine. So I'm going to say the way the UF gets the bowl win, game 1, right off the bat, have to beat Miami in order to solidify that and make that a potential possibility. So that's my breakdown of our UF possibilities of getting a bowl game this season. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, if you have any opinions, if you think the season hinges somewhere else, drop it in the comments below and I will respond. Thank you.